session that you put together.
Fantastic. I think we're live on YouTube, and like I said, another couple of minutes to go. We keep on hearing about, how difficult it is in the US, lots of, tension between African Americans, blacks, and the whites. We hear about, challenges with COVID. We hear about visa problems, etc., etc., etc. Naren, I mean, what's really happening in the US? Is it as bad as what we hear, or it's life as normal?
Well, for me personally, it's normal because I don't go out much, and I'm not exposed to the environment so much. But I'm in the privileged group. But I think in society there's a lot going on, and I think a lot of conversations on all the topics that you talked about are happening. I think the news focuses on sensational events, obviously, for publicity. But in general, all the network of people that I talk to, there's some level of anxiety, but there's also everyone's trying to come back to normal in their own way. So I think everyone's trying to figure out what their new normal is going to be. So I think the virus is here to stay with us, and we have to figure out a way to live with it.
Fantastic. I think it's time to start. Naren, if you allow me.
Yeah, please.
Wonderful. So good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, teachers. Good afternoon, Dr. Chirmule. Welcome to Ideas That Matter, series of webinars by Shoolini University, Khosla Hills. I think this is your fifth, if I'm not wrong, and we are so honored to have you here. A quick introduction to Dr. Chirmule. He's one of India's leading biotechnologists, or he's one of the few Indians who really understands medicine, biotechnology, and how to create medicines out of biotechnology. Naren has had a brilliant academic career. He has worked at University of Pennsylvania. He's a PhD, I think, from India. Post that, he decided to get into the corporate sector, where he spent most of his time in research, working with some of the leading pharma companies of the world, which is whether it's Merck or Amgen, which is the leading #1 biotech company in the world. And then Swades hit him. So like Shah Rukh Khan, Dr. Naren Chirmule came back to India with Biocon, and he headed Biocon's research efforts. So he was head of research for Biocon, and he has gone back to the US now. He shuttles between Pune and the United States of America, right now speaking to us from the US, and he's going to talk to us about demystifying careers. Careers are so important for all of us. And he's going to be talking about his self-awareness. How do careers evolve for someone as successful as Dr. Naren Chirmule? Like I said, one of India's leading scientists today, also part of the COVID task force of the government of India. Quick background, my name is Atul Khosla. I am the Pro-Vice Chancellor and founder of Shoolini University, Khosla Hills. I'm a BTech from IIT Kanpur, an MBA, and then worked in the corporate sector for the next 20 years in consulting many multinationals, McKinsey & Company, Oliver Wyman, A-Connect, to name a few. But I am very excited to tell all of you that I did spend my time in 7 different countries and 35 different cities. That's a tough one to beat, Naren, but we'll come to that later. 7 years ago, I decided to be a teacher. I teach now. I love every moment of that. So that's me. And I'm also going to be talking to you today about my life experiences. But I think we're here to listen to Dr. Chirmule. He's got a phenomenal presentation for us where he's going to talk about his experiences of building a truly world-class career, which hopefully also leads to riches. So we'll also love to hear from you how rich you are, Naren. We know you've got multiple houses all across the world, so you can't be poor for sure. So over to you, Dr. Naren Chirmule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Atul. I think, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I think these sessions for me on that you have allowed me to do on self-awareness are really also inspiration for me, because every time I see you and the things that you have done in Shoolini University are just amazing. Let me go down with the talk, and we'll have a lot of time to talk about question and answers. So the series of talks that I talk about are my experiments with self-awareness. My own experience in my own career has been in the area of vaccines and biologics. I went to school in केंद्रीय विद्यालय लखनऊ, इसलिए मैं हिंदी बहुत अच्छी से बोल लेता हूँ मैं मराठी, लेकिन बोल सकता हूँ अच्छी तरह से हिंदी, और बाहर 30 साल रह के भी हिंदी अच्छी है. That all that goes to my Hindi teacher Mishra sir in Lucknow. Um, I did do a lot of work in vaccine and biologics, but my passion is public speaking. I like to constantly improve, and I talk about inflection points, which I will talk about during the course of this talk. Um, my own inflection point was at a point after my master's, not going into a marketing job that I had got, but rather go to do my PhD in Cancer Research Institute. And there were many factors that led to that decision, but then ultimately that decision transformed my life. It's not that the marketing would not have done that for me, but that was my inflection point. And then another point that I had was a decision to return to India after 30 years of being in the US. Again, that also was an important decision. And then I transformed my life. I like to also spend a lot of time on my hobbies, serious hobbies. And I'm not just, I just don't play tabla and flute. I've actually done a lot of work in tabla and drums, collaborated with a lot of people, and I take as much interest in my hobby as I take in my job. And that's a theme that you will see, that a lot of successful people and people who want to do a lot of things have to balance. So the topics I'm going to cover: a systematic process to become aware. And today I'll talk a little bit about career exploration. Awareness is a state of being conscious of something. How does one become aware? You become aware by being observant of your surroundings and your senses. Doing things mindfully, pausing between activities, and most importantly, listening. That's what makes you aware. What is the process of becoming aware? There are many examples, and I'll show you one in this slide. Draw a concentric circle in your notebook today, for example. In the middle, you draw a circle, which is about, write everything about what's affecting you or what's in your mind. So, for example, I'm thinking of Zoom, lots of Zoom meetings I'm having. I'm really studying the immunology of COVID-19, and I spend a lot of time reading about papers about that. And let's move a little bit outside the circle and say, what's happening in the city? I used to love to go to music concerts, but now all those music concerts are online. And the environment when I go out for a walk in the city is really beautiful because so much less pollution. I'm becoming aware of the city. Now, what's happening in the country? In the country, there's a lockdown, the economy is going down, but there's also the government, both in Indian government and the US government, are giving a lot of grants to entrepreneurs to get started. There's a lot of grants to do social work. There's a lot of grants to bring your own businesses up on. So a lot of that is happening. A lot of local activities are happening for volunteering, helping the underprivileged, helping the fire staff, helping the police. A lot of things you can actually do and volunteer. So many things you can do in your country. In the world, 25,000 articles have been written just on COVID. And it's a fantastic time to be reading about all of these things, all of the papers on COVID. As you all know, Black Lives Matter challenges in school. So many different challenges are happening in the world. So in the process of becoming aware, if you separate all of these things out from your brain and they're not entangled, you become much more aware easily. So let's look at exploration of careers as a process of looking at awareness. So in this process, I'm going to give you examples of about 5 key people who I have met over the years. There are many more, but let's look at their CVs and see what they've done in their careers to see how we can explore our own careers. This slide shows the common careers that we all are familiar with: management, finance, molecular biology, medicine, computer science. These are, and they're all interrelated to each other. And great universities and learning institutions have fantastic courses to teach all of these careers. What should you do when you're in high school? What should you do? And I think the movie Three Idiots really hits home as to follow your passion and do that. And Ikigai, the process tells you that the what you should do can come from what the world needs, what you love, and what you're good at. And the best job, of course, that you like to do is the one that comes in the middle. But you those opportunities don't always are not always available. So you have to do the best you possibly can in this situation. What is success? How do you define success? That awareness you have to figure out yourself. It is very easy to say, the more money I have, the more successful I am. But there are so many extremely rich people who are not happy. They feel like they've not accomplished anything. They are not satisfied with what they've got. So clearly, money only is not the definition of success. It's a combination of many different things. And you have to figure out what success means for you. And no one else can tell you that except you yourself. We know these successful people in our lives, right? And so in look at role models, look what people have achieved. That is a process of becoming aware. What have they done? How do you look at a person's accomplishment to say, what did that person do that I can learn from, that I can apply to my own career? I'll show you a process which I have explored to see how you can develop your perfect CV. And for this, and most of you are in high school, this is something that you will come up later on when you apply for colleges or when you apply for a job. You have to write your CV or bio data. You have to write your title, who you are. And by that, I mean, that title should be able to describe something about you. You cannot just say, I'm a high school student. You should say something like, I am a student interested in physics and also play basketball. So that's your title, right? So when I look at the title, I should be able to get some inclination of who you are. You should list your education and list the education, the things that you have learned in most important places. Like, for example, I was talking to a friend of mine several years ago, who I asked him, tell me your education. And he is actually the vice president of a very large multinational company, and very, very accomplished. But when I asked him, what is your education? He said, I did my high school in Kansas. And Kansas is one chota sa gaon type city in the United States, which is, very, very, it's a small place in the United States. So I asked him, you've accomplished so much in your life. You've done your PhD, you went to Harvard, and then you've gone to all over the world, and you've traveled so much. Why do you have to list high school in your education when you've accomplished so much? What he told me was very interesting. He said, it was in high school that I learned that I was interested in science. So whatever you have learned in the most important part of your life, that's what you should write in your education. It's not just that high school kar liya, college kar liya, ye kar liya, all the education kar liya. What you have done and what have you learned in that education is what you should write in this. Then you have to write your skills. Not easy to think about what skills you have. If you have to think about what skills you have to really you have to think about what you can do. And we'll see some skills of other people that we've seen. In this process, I would also ask you to write your challenges. What challenges have you faced? And I will speak a little bit about inflection points later. And then I will show you how the path changes once you make these decisions. So the other thing that I'll ask you to do is to make a graph of your CV, of your career, potential career. On the y-axis is satisfaction. I just mentioned whatever definition of success you have is your y-axis. And for example, if you finished high school, then you finished college, you finished all your other classes, and you attained these skills, and then something happens in your life, right? And when that something happens in your life, um, suddenly your career changes. This green is your inflection point, right? And this is what you have to know what that is going to be to change your life. Now, there can be other graphs that you could also have. This is an example of two individuals, for example, who have started at the same point, but ended also at the same point. But their journeys in life were very different. While this one had a very smooth upbringing and reached this point, uh, versus this person had to go through, had to struggle initially, had an inflection point, went up, had another inflection point which brought that person down, and then came up all the way. So imagine if you interviewed these two candidates over here at this point and you ask them, how has your life been? This person will say, oh, I've had a magnificent time in the last several months or years because I had an exponential growth in my capabilities. And this other person will say, you know, for the last several years, I've had a really boring life because my satisfaction factor was straight. So how you reach where you reach is very important, and to visualize it in this graph is very useful. I have interviewed or talked to more than 100 people over the years and actually written down their CV on my notebook and drawn their graphs for my understanding in this way. So when I write there, I ask these 6 or 7 questions of what their career is, etc. I will draw what their graph looks like, and I try to understand what their inflection point was so that I can learn from their inflection point what I can do for myself. So this is a process of awareness. Let's look at one CV, uh, a CV of a student who I had interviewed or talked to. She is an engineering student who has turned into a self-motivated social worker. She's about 30 years old. She did a high school in Maharashtra, and she came first in Maharashtra in her high school degrees. Then she did her bachelor's in engineering, and then she did a master's in engineering with a full scholarship to UCLA, which is University of California at Los Angeles. And while she was doing that, she was doing additional courses in social work. She was also learning how to teach, and she also was very good at languages. So she picked up a lot of different languages around the world. Her skills are she's very good at mathematics, she's very hardworking, good communication skills, and she's very she has a lot of empathy. What were her challenges? Her challenge was too much workload on school curriculum, where she had no time to do what she loved to do, which is social work and pursue hobbies. What was her inflection point? She decided not to pursue a career in engineering, even after completing her master's in one of the leading institutions in the world, and decision to pursue master's in social sciences. And because of that inflection point, she loves what she does. She's now a social worker and a teacher in a tribal school, and her level of happiness is extremely high. And this is what her graph looks like. So although she was accomplishing so much, she came first in Maharashtra in high school, yet her happiness factor was not very high. And then she did her bachelor's, the master's in UCLA, such a big institution, and her happiness factor was not there. But until she went and decided to do social sciences, did her career not, did her happiness factor increase? Not that much. That is beautiful. Now she's in such a happy state and doing exactly what she wants. I just flipped this graph into into 90 degrees, and it looks like it looks like a roadmap of your life. So if your life is going in a nice, beautiful straight line, and like this was her life, something happened and some realization happens, and then more Lelia. She turned her, and now she's on a different path. no path is wrong. It's just you have to follow your passion. So these are inflection points that you have to pay attention to. And just to give you an idea, the beauty of UCLA in Los Angeles looks like this, and where she works in a tribal school is in Garhwal, which looks like this. And she actually lives in these huts with all these people and teaches all the tribal children. This is not very different from many experiences that students in Shoolini University may be experiencing. And who better to tell us about that a little bit than Atul? And Atul, I would love for you to share some of the experiences of your students and also maybe talk about your own experiences that you have been through.
Thank you, Naren. It's been, as you were speaking, I was chatting with many of the students, Rahul, Ria, Aman, and there are lots of questions which are coming up with students are asking, what should I do after my 12th? I'm a commerce student. What should I do after after my 12th? I'm a PCM, a mathematics student, or I'm a medical student. What should I do? So I think before I get into my story and I get into Shoolini, my message to the dear students is, students, choose what you love to do. And if you choose something that you love to do, you will really learn in your 3 or 4 years in your undergraduate program at the university. So that's the first thing. The second is choose a great university. And how do you define a great university? A great university will give you all the flexibility to learn what you want to learn. I'll give a small example over here. At Shoolini, we have complete flexibility around the curriculum. So you could be doing a BTech in computer science, but simultaneously you could do a minor in music, for example, or vice versa. You could be doing an undergrad in yoga, but specialize in computer science or artificial intelligence. So the quality of a great university is flexibility, is great faculty who teaches you, is nowadays, of course, the use of technology, and finally, who's the management or the administration of the university? What's the background? Because ultimately, the university will be driven by their vision and how they see the world. So I think it's very important. Like I said, choose your university and choose what's close to your heart in terms of the subjects that you do. I'm going to play a small video, Naren, on Shoolini at this juncture. I'm very proud of Shoolini because to me, it's all about inspiration. Inspiration creates magic. It's all about making ordinary students extraordinary. And that's the passion that we have at Shoolini, whether these are commerce students or science students. So science students write beautiful research papers, get amazing patents. The commerce students become entrepreneurs, join the IAS or become MBAs. Science students go to the best universities of the world to study. We've had students who've gone to Stanford, and it all happens because of a wonderful environment that we have. So here it is about Shoolini, if you allow me, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. Can I, Naren?
Please go.
Here it is, Shoolini.
amazing as always.
Thank you so much. I would, Naren, like to take the students through my career.
Yeah, please.
So students, I'm a Solon boy. I grew up in Solon. It's a small town. And, I wanted to be a doctor. I never shared that with you, Naren. I thought becoming a cardiologist is what I want to do. So there used to be an exam called the National Talent Search Exam, which is very prestigious. After the 10th, you get it. So for that, one had to study a lot of mathematics. So I was preparing for the NTS after my 10th, and I ended up studying a lot of mathematics. So I cleared the National Talent Search exam. I came first in Himachal. And when the choice came to choose medical versus non-medical, I thought, why should I restudy biology? I have already studied mathematics. So I pretty much finished my 11th mathematics. So that's how I actually became an engineer. So I did mathematics because it was easy for me to do. I'd already done mathematics for the NTS exam. I studied for mathematics and I wanted to be an engineer. Someone told me, there is this beautiful university called IIT, and they've got a beautiful swimming pool at IIT Kanpur. And they've got some vending machines where you can put money and you can get, lovely chips and biscuits. And, that's really what excited me. I'd seen those in movies like Back to the Future. So I started studying for the IIT. Everyone laughed at me. And I became the first student from Himachal to clear IIT JEE, and I joined IIT Kanpur. And guess what? I said I would like to make an aeroplane. So I joined aerospace engineering. Within 3 weeks of joining IIT, I knew that I cannot become an aerospace engineer. I didn't have the basics of physics and mathematics. I didn't even enjoy it. So then I told myself I will become a pilot. So I started flying planes. IIT Kanpur had a flying club. So I became a qualified pilot, guys. So I fly planes, whether you believe it or not, I do. And I got very actively engaged in politics. Then someone told me, why don't you become an IAS officer? And I started preparing for the IAS, Naren. And then I lost interest in that. And then a friend of mine, actually a cousin of mine, he was working for Bank of America after doing his MBA after IIT Delhi. So I met him during my engineering and I loved it. And someone is asking, Rahul is asking me, is this Shoolini University better than IIT? Rahul, you have to come and have a look at it. Of course, IITs are IITs. I wouldn't say choose Shoolini if you get an IIT, but if you don't get an IIT, definitely would love to invite you over to join us. It's for you to choose which is better. But my story is very simple. I then did an MBA, got inspired by Ajay. I did an MBA in marketing and I got a job in finance. And I ended up doing work after that in consulting. I roamed around the world. I wanted to be an entrepreneur that I became. I then got into human resources from there. And I then set up my own company in Switzerland. I sold that. I got into education. So if you look at my career, it's been quite sinusoidal. And who knows what I'm going to do next? I still don't know myself. So my message to you students is keep your options open. Have your thinking cap on. Have your problem solving cap on. Be happy. Have your values intact. And have a lot of fun. If you're not enjoying yourself, it's not going to be a happy life for you. So there's a very a famous professor called Simon Sinek. You might have heard about him, Naren. So he says, when you're doing a lot of hard work for others and you're not enjoying it, then we call it hard work and drudgery. But if you're doing a lot of hard work and you love it, it's called passion. So bring passion into a life and you'll never have to work a day in your life. So I'm going to answer some of the specific questions around commerce versus engineering versus medicine in a minute. But there are lots and lots of students, there are lots and lots of careers today. Be bindas about the career. There are enough careers in the world which are great careers. तो अच्छे दोस्तों के साथ रहोगे, अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ोगे, मजा करोगे, कुछ नई चीजें सीखोगे, हॉबी सीखोगे, कुछ मस्ती मारोगे, जैसे 3 Idiots में था, तो जिंदगी में कुछ डिफरेंट कर लोगे. If you remember the guys at 3 Idiots, one became a photographer, one became a corporate guy, and of course, the other guy became a patent. He was filing patents and started a school. So it is an amazing world, Naren, and we can do anything we want. So students typically don't understand it that well. So I'll request students to explore. Come speak to me. I'm going to leave my Insta page. You can reach out to me or Naren, and we'll be delighted to speak to you. Over to you, Naren.
Thank you, thank you. Very nice, inspirational career, and lots more to do together, and lots more to do. All right. So let me continue with four other biodatas that I have. That I've got many more, but I'm going to share these four, but I thought were very pertinent. And each one has a message. So this one, for example, is that hobbies can coexist with a very high-profile career. Uh, she's also a very good friend of mine. She works at she's a leading drug development scientist, one of the major pharmaceutical companies. And she's also been a Bharatnatyam teacher for 30 years. She did her bachelor's and master's in Chennai. She did her PhD in Harvard and has continued to learn Bharatnatyam for a long time. Her skills are in biochemistry. She's a very senior leadership leader in a very large MNC company. And like I said, she's Bharatnatyam teacher also. Her challenges are that there's a lot of travel she has to do for work, obviously the usual company politics, and the challenges of work-life balance are her challenges. And her decision was to pursue both career and hobby equally. What happened was her work network provided more dance opportunities for her, and her dance performance expanded her network. So both of these, it is absolutely possible to pursue two full-time activities, and she's an example of that. Let's look at another career. This is a career of another very senior person. Most of the people I'm showing you here are from the pharma industry. That's where I am, but you can get examples like this from many other uh, sources. He's about 43 years old now. He's a business strategy leader, and he did business strategy after engineering and then a high profile gene therapy lab. And let's look at his journey. He was born and went to school in a very small village in Madhya Pradesh. It was so small at that point, he told me that there were only about 100 people in his village. He did not even know music could be taught. He thought music has to be self-learned. That's how rural it was. And he studied, and then he got admission in IIT Delhi, after which he went to Georgia Tech University in USA and finished his master's and PhD. All along, he pursued his hobby. He plays the drums, the guitar, the vocals. Um, his skills are good at mathematics and engineering. He's a very good public speaker. He's part of a music band, and he's also made a lot of recordings. Uh, his challenges are work pressure during his PhD while working in a large competitive labs. And also, he has too many interests. How does he pursue all of them? His inflection point was to move from engineering to a PhD in biology in Philip Sharp lab, who is a Nobel laureate. So this was his inflection point, his opportunity to do a PhD in a very high profile lab. And then from there, uh, from an engineering and biology experience, he started working in a business consultancy like McKinsey. And ultimately, he's now head of a strategy of one of the largest pharma companies in the world. So very successful career, and this is his journey. And you can imagine what his graph might look like. Let's look at another unusual career. This person is an educator of fragile nations, and she's about 45 years old. Uh, BA in history from a very small place, small village town in the United States, B.Ed and Master in Education, and then did a course in public health. Spent her time as an elementary school teacher, working with children and planning curriculums for school. She also likes painting and also likes traveling. What were the challenges? Her job was pretty routine, every day coming, doing the same thing, and then working with difficult children. What was the inflection point? When she was in Washington, D.C., she decided to accept an entry-level position in UNESCO, which is the United Nations Children's Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization. And then from there, she decided she had to move to France from the United States. And because of that change, she was given an assignment, or she was worked in a team which developed school curriculums for war-torn regions like Afghanistan, Iraq, and Rwanda. And from there, she had a great opportunity to lead the team to develop the educational curriculum for a newly formed country, South Sudan. So look at her journey, coming from a small village in the and then becoming an elementary school teacher to becoming a person who helps a new country form an education program. Currently, she's back in Washington, D.C., doing social reform active work to reestablish the importance of education in an enriching life for those who are less fortunate and have this entitled access. And the last one is probably one of the most fascinating CVs that I've ever seen. He's a very good friend of mine now. His name is Manoj Krishna. He's 58 years old. And the message is, who you are is more important than what you do. His title, and this is actually an interview of him directly, and these are his actual responses. I asked him, what is your title? Good, kind human being. What is his education? Learning right from wrong, how to be kind, constant learning from young and old. He says degree is inconsequential. In fact, he's a neurosurgeon, MD, and he says degree is inconsequential. Skills: fearlessness, compassion, belief, positive attitude, and helping others. What were his challenges? Typical that all humans have, he said. Selfishness, comparison, conflict, greed. These are his challenges. What was his inflection point? His inflection point was when he noticed meaningless atrocities like bombing of hospitals during the war, crashing of planes just to make a point, lack of awareness of the other humans are facing. These are his inflection points that made him saying, what am I doing in my life? So with that, in the last several years, he has given up his job as a neurosurgeon, and he does this full time, and he calls it the Human Inquiry Project. It's a website called humaninquiryproject.org. You should go and look at it. His name is Manoj Krishna. He does beautiful talks in schools about awareness of just being human. This is ultimately what we need to be. And I'll end by saying, how do you get to where you want to be is actually dependent on the places and the environment that influences you. So for you in school, the universities that you choose, the places that you go will influence you, how you choose your career. But be aware, be open, look at what other people have done. You have to be unique. You are yourself. You have to decide what you want to do. Draw the picture of your graph of your career and then follow it. Thank you so much again, and we'll open it up again for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Naren. What an inspiring talk. I hope students, you've heard 4 or 5 very important things, and that is pursue your passion. I think that's what I learned from Naren today. Second is your careers will not be linear. They will go from one point to the other. You might start in commerce and you might end up becoming an engineer. You'll be surprised, dear friends, that people who are entrepreneurs and have built the world's leading engineering companies are not engineers, most of them. Elon Musk, that we all hear about, is not an engineer, and he runs one of the world's #1 engineering companies. Neither was Steve Jobs, who built the world's #1 technology company, or Bill Gates. So the important thing is to pursue what you love to do, and that's very, very important. And I'll encourage all of you to read more about people like Steve Jobs, because they all talk about pursuing your passion, and your passion keeps changing. My passion used to be, for example, traveling many times a few years earlier. Now I love, for example, teaching. I love to do webinars like these. Naren is learning music, for example. And Naren, I'm going to ask you a question. you to play the flute in a second, but we'd love to hear a story about music, from biotechnology to science to music. What are you trying to do?
Well, I think, as you have rightly mentioned, that we have many parts of our body and we have a left and right brain. We need to stimulate both sides to be a complete
Mhm.
human being. So, in my pursuit of trying to exercise every part, I've learned to play the flute to help uh, my, is it the right side of the brain?
I think at this
And
juncture, also request Shikha Su to also come and join the panel. Shikha, if you're around, she's also a very, very experienced counselor out of Chandigarh. So Shikha, welcome to the panel.
Hi everybody.
I think
Hi,
there's so many
Dr. Naren.
questions
Yes.
specific to what careers I should take. I think you could pick them, some of them up. But Naren, would love to hear you playing the flute.
okay, just a few seconds, just as an example. Hmm.
So Lag Ja Gale. I think
Wow.
Yashika got it really right. Uh,
Yes.
so we've got
Mulaqat ho
people
yo
who,
no.
Ria and Yashika got it absolutely right. Thank you, girls. I think we
Wow.
all love songs, and that's the beauty. Naren is one of the world's number one scientists, leading scientists, and he's learning how to play the flute now, and that's
Yeah.
what careers do. So I think I'll pick up a few questions. I think there are questions around what should I do after commerce. I think there are a bunch of questions, and very quickly to answer that question, Shikha, I would say
Mm.
after commerce, typically students will do a BCom. If you love accounting, then do a BCom. If you're not very sure of mathematics and accounting, then do a BBA. You can also do a degree in hotel management if you like tourism. And Shikha's son is doing a degree in culinary arts. He's learning how to become a chef. So all that side you can do. I think you can also, if you love languages, you can do a bachelor's in English. I think that's a wonderful program. If you love teaching, you can do a BA in education, and that's one program that we have, which is an upcoming, very big upcoming program because the world of teaching is changing quite dramatically. So you need to learn how to use technology to teach, which is fundamentally different from the way teaching happened. So that's really about the type of careers you could have. If you've done medicine, then a great career is actually biotechnology. BTech in biotechnology is a wonderful program, or a B Pharma is a wonderful program. If you're interested in science, you can do a BSc program in biology or botany or zoology. But I still like food technology or biotechnology. I really love those programs personally. And Naren, of course, can speak more about what a career in biotechnology looks like. I did mathematics. So, of course, the traditional thing is to go out, do an engineering degree. But today, the world of mathematics is, if you know mathematics, students, you will have the best jobs in the world, even with biology. Biology and maths is the most in demand. You won't believe me. I was at Harvard, Naren, some 6 months ago, and we were doing a partnership with professors over there. And the guy told me, he said, if you've got someone who knows biology and he knows mathematics, I will give him 100% fellowship right away. Very few people who know both. But bioinformatics, or the field of using analytics in biology, is very, very, very big nowadays. Data sciences is very big. So मैथमेटिक्स जिसको आ गई, उसके ऊपर तो भगवान का हाथ है, कोई उनको रोक नहीं सकता success होने से. So mathematics could be very interesting. Data sciences, nowadays artificial intelligence. But don't do a plain degree in computer science. I would say do something in artificial intelligence or machine learning or cloud computing or network design. These are the big areas in engineering nowadays. But if you're interested in automotives, do a degree in automotives. So you guys are lucky students. You can do anything you want, and the world will be at your feet. So thank you all of you. I'm going to hand it over to Shikha now, and Naren towards both of you to answer more questions. Thank you,
Sure.
students, and do
Sure.
reach out to me on Insta if you have to. Thank you.
So students, I would really want Dr. Naren. There's a question Dr. Naren Rahul had asked us, and it was, sir, while the corona will corona continue in 2021?
The simple answer is yes, it will continue. Um, I think, like I
Your
said
voice is
earlier,
not clear, sir.
okay, is it a little better now?
Yeah, now it's better. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, Corona will definitely be there in 2021. It's not going away anytime soon. I think we'll have to learn to live to work with it. Wear masks. There will be a lot of medications for the sick people by next year, and hopefully there'll be a vaccine that is coming along. So the humanity has been able to live with many other viruses together with us, like measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, all of these viruses, which are very lethal viruses. All of them are under control by all medical processes. So corona will not be any different.
Okay. So another is a lot of students I see, they're asking about which programs which courses they should choose. And our purpose of, when Dr. Naren was showing his presentation, so, he showed you the CVs of so many people who were working in different fields, and what they are doing now was totally different. So, and that is what Professor Atul Khosla also told you, that if you choose good university, then what happens is that you are pursuing one course, but with that you can even do a lot more. Like, if we see Dr. Naren is a live example in front of us. He's a scientist by profession, and I've been interacting every Wednesday with him. He's an artist, he is a musician, he plays tabla, flute, so many things. So it all depends. You need to know, I feel that is why we are doing this webinar, because this is self-awareness. So you should first is understand yourself. That's very, very important. That once you understand yourself, everything will come. So, in your life, if you look at the graph of Professor Atul Khosla and Dr. Naren, he did his engineering, he did his MBA, he worked with MNCs, and now he's a teacher. So, he's a professor. So, in your life, and what I feel, what I learned from today's webinar was that, you change your profession in your complete life. Uh, it is many times you make a change, and now even you kids can also make a change. So don't think that, okay, what you will be doing, you have to stick to that whole of your life. Am I right, Dr. Naren? So I
No,
believe
you're
Dr. Naren was sharing with me one of his very close friends who was a neurosurgeon, who is a neurosurgeon. So, I would like you to share that with students also, because that's a very good, example of how you moved in your career.
Yeah. So I think you actually covered a lot of topics. That was very, very good. I'll just take one student, Ayushi Nand,
Yeah,
Narad, I think, as asking a
Naren, yeah.
question. I'm a commerce student, but rather than that, I love to do poetry and make drawings. What shall I do,
Oh,
sir? So that's a good question. So there has to be some. There's passion, but there's also paisa bhi banana hai, right?
mm,
So you have to also think about how you're going to make money. It's not obviously you have to follow passion also, but that's what awareness is about, right? It's not just unidirectional ek hi cheez mujhe karni hai, and then if that doesn't get you the money, then you have to figure out what to do next. I would say continue to do your drawing and poetry, Ayushi. uh, Continue also to study. There's no reason that's why I showed you that CV of that the friend of mine who's a very senior person in the MNC, but she's also a Bharatnatyam teacher, right?
yes,
So there's no reason you can't do both.
yes.
दिन में 24 घंटे होते हैं. You can do a lot of different things. So it doesn't mean एक करो तो दूसरा नहीं कर सकते हो. Yeah.
So I
Any
think she
other?
can pursue one of his, poetry and drawing can be her hobby, and she can still do commerce.
Yeah,
That's
and in fact, I would even sometimes even flip it. Maybe your poetry and drawing is your job, and maybe commerce से थोड़ा बहुत पैसा मिल जाता है.
exactly.
वो
Yes.
भी हो सकता है. There is no rule कि ये अपने खुद rule बनाओ job
Mm,
के,
mm.
है ना? So any other question that you can see?
Yes, I was just checking that.
The one thing I will also say from a career perspective is the points that I made, which is the 7 points I usually like to do. Get your title, know who you are. The second is what is your education. The third is what are your skills. Write these down. Unless you write them down, you don't know what your skills are. It is very difficult to write skills. कुछ भी नहीं लिख सकता है. You
Mm.
can't say. And
So
that
true.
that skill could be I can play cricket, and I can also do good in mathematics. It is not like I'm Shikha, that I'm this Shikha who does mathematics very well, and there's some other Shikha who can do painting. वही same Shikha ही है.
Ah,
So when you write skills, you write all your skills together, है ना? Then you write your challenges, and then you figure out what your inflection points are, because these are more the inflection points are the ones that will change your careers. And then observe what other people have done to change their careers. Then you can start applying to them.
hmm. So there's one more question. There is a great confusion. This is Mansi is asking. There's a great confusion to what to do between passion and choice of stream.
Okay. Uh, I mean, I don't have all the answers myself. You will have to think and answer some of these questions yourself, because
Yourself,
you
yes.
you know why you are asking that question. So let's explore how to answer that question. So you have passion, and you also have choice of stream, which is, I'm assuming, the passion and stream is not the same. So let's say, like Ayushi was saying earlier, I have a passion for making poetry and drawings, right? Now, if you're really good, you keep doing poetry and drawing, keep doing poetry and drawing as a hobby, or do it seriously, do it as if it is a profession, right? One day you might become an animation artist in Disney. Who knows? But if you stop doing poetry and drawing, you will never become an artist in Disney. But if you say, I'm going to do poetry and artistry because I want to become an artist, because I want to become an artist in Disney, that may not happen, because that's not in your control. What is in your control? To become the best artist ever. Once you do that, Disney ही बुलाएगा तुमको. That is what happens. So on the one side, pursue your hobby like it is a profession, and pursue your passion like it is a hobby. Do work like it's a hobby, and do a hobby like it's a job. So both are important, but दोनों में मन लगा करो, दोनों में मन लगा के करो.
That is so true. That's so true. So basically, passion and profession, they both go together. It's not that,
हाँ
you
हाँ
can just switch to one. So it
हाँ
has to go together and
correct.
develop both the things. So
हाँ,
you have
I'll
both.
physiologically, I'll tell you one other thing, right? Let's say, for example, passion jo hai, you have a passion for, I'm going to again pick Ayushi's example, because I like her example of poetry and drawing. Let's say she has a very good passion of doing poetry and art. There's a certain, when she does poetry and art, na, there's some part of the brain that is being used, that is becoming mature for passion of poetry and art.
Hmm,
What happens
hmm.
when you have a passion for poetry and art, the part of the neurons that are being activated, that are responsible for passion, are the same for the passion for commerce.
Hmm, hmm.
The part of the brain that is responsible for passion is same. So if you are passionate about one, if you know how to get passionate about something, the same methodology is also used for getting passionate about something else. So when you start getting passionate about multiple different things, your brain also understands the process of how to pursue with persistence the things that you want to do.
So true. So true. I totally agree with you. That is there. So any other question which we can pick is, I think MBA and all was answered by Atul sir already. So That was something very good. Do we get a good wife if we have studied in Shoolini? Uh, so it was very well answered by Atul sir. He said you get a good wife if you're a nice person. So, and I believe Dr. Naren had talked about being a good human being. I think that's the most important thing in life, because if you are a good human being, all these things, they automatically come to you. Isn't it, Dr. Naren?
So true, so true, so true, so true.
Yes. I think there was a question, somebody wanted to know what is the difference between BCom honors and BCom. So what we can do is that, I don't know your name, but I will share Dr. Kesri's number here. And please, after this webinar, you can just call her. She is our Professor Jean there, and she is the right person to answer this question for you. So I don't know your name, but I'm sharing Dr. Kesri's number in the chat. So please call her after this webinar, and I'm sure she'll answer your this question for you. So I believe, sir. Oh, we've got one more. Yes, Yashika. She wants to know how to come to know what are my choices.
Yeah. So one way to do it. Remember, I told you there's a graph of what you want to do, what the world is, what the city is doing, what the world is doing, and what your country is doing. First, make a list of everything that you want to do. Don't hold back. Write all the things that you want to do. You want to paint. You want to paint. You want to draw. You want to do you want to do MBBS. You want to do commerce. You write everything down on a piece of paper, right? And beside that, you start writing, making categories of why you want to do these certain things, and then put a score of some kind if you want, and say, okay, if this is why I want to do MBBS. This is why I want to do commerce. This is why I want to do art and painting. So now when you look at all of them, when you've seen them written down and you look at them, all of them together, and you talk to people and get more information and decide at some point, uh, you will ultimately you will have to make a decision of which way to go. And don't get paranoid about the decision. As Shikha mentioned, if you, let's say you decide to do MBBS now and you do your MBBS because that's your passion now, maybe 10 saal ke baad there's some other passion because of your experiences that you will get during the time you're doing your MBBS. You will get a different kind of experience over there. You might want to do something different. That time you choose to do something different. That's okay. But be persistent in your passion and get your passionate things done. So my process that I use is I write down everything and then sort of analyze it systematically.
Yes, that's very, very important, because then you know what you are actually wanting in your life. So that is Yashika is saying thank you, sir. So I think now we've almost answered all the questions. So Dr. Naren, last words, what you would like to say to the students again before we close this webinar?
Yeah, I think follow your passion, and it's very easy to say, but I think the methodology that I showed you, where you write down everything about yourself, write your skills, write your challenges, and sort of look at what other people have done in their lives, and then try to see what you want to do. Make options of what you want to do, put the pros and cons of those, and then make a decision. Move on. Whatever decision you make is not permanent for the rest of your life. It is till the time that passion is there. Be persistent, get that done. Once you feel like you've accomplished a lot in that area, then you're free to do something else. So don't life is a journey. It's not like one event.
Yes, totally agreed. So first is understand yourself, follow your dreams, and as today's webinar has explained you how you need to find your passion, how you need to explore, try all that. And if in case you want, you can always come back to us. We've shared our website also, and we've shared our Instagram, all the addresses with you. So please come back to us in case you have any questions. And it was really nice. Thank you, students. So I believe, okay, now we need to do
Thank
that
you.
rapid fire round. Dr. Naren, just
Okay.
in just one sentence, what is your message which you would like to give it to the students at last now?
Yeah, follow your passion, and anything that you decide is not permanent. You can always do other things.
So students, according to Dr. Naren and me, you just need to follow your passion, and please understand. I would suggest that please first is understand yourself. It's very, very important. And if you know yourself, you would know what is your passion, and do not follow the passion which many times it's your parents who are, putting so many things in your mind. So but follow your own passion, what you feel is the best for you. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Naren. It was really nice interacting with you as always. So
Yeah.
see you next Wednesday, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.